Hi everyone, how are you? Today I had a lot of Madeline Kingsbury coverage on the news. It really did a good job of putting things together and bringing the community together and showing the timeline. There are a lot of there's I guess, in the military you call it scuttlebutt. Out here, you kind of call it gossip. So without really having anything confirmed, I'm not going to repeat what I've heard just people talking about it. Literally, people are talking about it all over. I had to get these two top molars, one on my right and one on my left, top molars fixed today. And so literally it took so much to numb them. I was like, those teeth are in my freaking brain. And so then as I finally had my mouth the way that he needed to get up into the top, the dental assistant starts talking, and she's, telling the dentist, she's like, oh, did you hear this, that Maddie was found, and did you hear this and this and that? And I'm like, they're like, what? And I'm like, no, no, no. They're like, okay, you tell us what's true, you tell us what's not true with your thumb. And they're like, okay, was she married? So, I did my best to clear up any misconceptions there, even though I did not have full use of my mouth, just kind of, through the nitrous and has the and that's where, through that conversation, the sentiment is the same, that Maddie was the salt of the earth. She was a good girl, so far ahead of things career wise for her age, for anybody. She was 26 and being a Mayo Clinic researcher, devoted to human subject research for several years already, and having the two kids and having her townhouse and a little mom van. She was doing everything right. And it seemed like she was aware of the fact that she could support her children on her own and be self-sufficient. As she went and she got full custody of the children before she moved out. She was leaving, so she was going to leave with the kids. That was kind of something that was not announced right away, but then Facebook messages kind of slipped up where it showed that she was looking for a new place to live, and then the CPS documents came out. And this is where I can really say that our system has learned from mistakes. We can say here that, well, a lot of people, of course, are saying, oh, he's, it's another Chris Watts. Well, as I've worked laboriously on my channel to prove, no, there was much, much, much more going on in the Watts household, and so this is not a good comparison. What this is a comparable comparison to a Josh Powell situation, and I think that this is where I kind of want to take this trajectory. And that, and Josh Powell, as you may remember, went for a drive one night in the middle of the night, snowy night, to go and make s'mores and kind of camp in the middle of the night, even though it was unplanned. And his wife was never seen again. He was able to keep custody of his two little boys for quite some time. Now, the boys began drawing their memories of that night. and they drew, I believe it was like a tunnel, like a hole, and we're telling their preschool teachers that mommy's in the hole. So that was in. So Susan Powell went missing December 6th, 2009. She was 28, and they had the two boys. In that case, Josh was allowed to keep the boys. But he knew that the boys were starting to talk. Ultimately, CPS got involved and took custody of the boys. There's a lot of other dynamics that I will get into sharing about the Powell case. I've gotten a lot of documents that I think that you guys will really like to hear regarding Josh Powell. So CPS moved and got custody of the boys as they were starting to talk, and it was inferred that their lives could be in danger because as Josh was becoming aware of the fact that the boys, even though they were very young, were remembering, then he was posing a danger to them, and CPS took custody. Now, CPS was allowing visitation. And if you recall, caseworker went up to the porch and the boys ran in, and Josh unalived the children with an axe and then used I don't know if I can say, I don't know what I can say here, caused an explosion of the house. Saying here is that it seems that CPS moved rather quickly to get custody of Maddie and Adams, little girl and boy. And we can infer or hope that it is because our system learned something about the terrible, terrible tragedy that happened in the case of Susan and Josh Powell. Charlie and Braden were just adorable. Ultimately, Washington State was ordered to pay the parents of Susan Powell $98 million in, is it, and it says in the case of the, and I don't think I can say the M word, sons. The cases are very similar to that point, to where CPS came in, to where Susan was unhappy, letting Josh know more and more. There was a lot of things going on, like I say, I will talk about. But the parallels to me as I was living in the West Coast still, and Josh Powell was in the Utah area, but then he also lived in Puyallup, which is in Washington State. So he was back and forth. So I saw a lot of the same parallels right there from the beginning. The other difference is that it sounds like the children were at the daycare when Adam is accused of unaliving Maddie. So maybe the children, hopefully the children did not see, whereas with Josh Powell, they did. I can't stress enough about how important it is to pay attention to the danger signs, the red flags, the feelings that something isn't right, the feelings of not wanting to be alone with your partner, in that time of separation. separation assault and separation unaliving is a factor, and we need to pay attention to it. We need to get to a society that accepts that there is room for both parents to co-parent after a separation, provided each parent is safe. And that's where you see some of these circumstances where mom was getting the gut feeling that the fathers were not safe and was making efforts to go and be safe with their children, and unfortunately did not make it to that end. What we know is that Adam Fravel was from the area where her body was found. So police were acting on a tip when they went looking, and it said they used ground penetrating radar, but then it also does say that she was found in the bushes. So I think that there was probably some really good detective work going on and seeing back to the places where he was familiar with and where most likely he was being followed. So she was found along, I think this is the I-35 highway. So we're going to go right here, going over here just in your basic Google search. And the Washington Post has right here. And, oh, this one is not going to let me read this article. Oh, no, it is not. It said, nope, can't do that. So we'll go up here to the most recent. And I was watching Fox News here at home tonight. And that's where their headline here says...
Disfruta de cientos de series y películas premium originales de ViX. Descarga la aplicación ya.
Really?
I'm Megan Kingsbury, Madeline Kingsbury's older sister. I live in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, down here in Winona, looking for Maddie. The last communication that I had with her was the morning of...
I apologize for that abrupt intro into here. We'll listen to Maddie's sister talk.
Madeline Kingsbury's older sister. I live in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, down here in Winona, looking for Maddie. The last communication that I had with her was the morning of Friday, March 31st. She had sent me a text at about 8:15 in the morning. Regular text for her. We were chuckling about a funny photo exchanged between us. And that was the last communication with me or with any of my family or her other friends.
And it's not like her to go
for years, since her first child was born, which is 5 years ago now. I talk to her multiple times on a daily basis, FaceTime, phone, text, even the rest of my family. She's just in constant communication with us about every minute detail. So it's very unlike her. There was some concern the evening of Friday, March 31st. My mom actually sent me a message asking if I had heard from my sister that day, because my mom had sent some messages that had no response. And when she said that, I was kind of like, oh, I guess you're right. She was supposed to come visit my house the next morning with her daughter. And typically, we would have discussed those plans since it was coming up. So it was that evening, and we started kind of connecting with her friends and seeing if anyone had heard from her. The focus is on on Madeline and finding her. There's a lot of speculation, of course. People are coming up with theories and stuff, and asking us a lot of questions that we can't answer. We want to keep the focus on finding her. People are keeping their eyes and ears open. And back to the speculation and theories and stuff. There's just a lot of unknown with all of that. So we just aren't engaging with all of that right now. We just want to keep the focus on the search and covering all the ground and terrain that there is out here.
There we go there. I do apologize for my non-professional ways of I just how to do PowerPoints or put in clips right. And I was going to go over there and I did not mean for that clip to go in. And the first was really loud and I apologize for that. So that was Maddie's sister, Megan. And she has, kind of been the family spokesperson by default for this entire time. And she is vocal on TikTok as well. And that was a clip from a month ago, and as you can see, and you can probably hear when I talk, I do the same thing because there are theories out there, and as you can tell, they start to say them or they've heard them as well, and we all stop because we don't want a lot of that back and forth because nothing is confirmed. And the fact of the matter is that she was missing. It is out of character. She's a mom who's very present and engaged with her children. So when she was not there to pick up her children at daycare, that was not normal. And after the basic safety cursory things were there, seeing if, she'd been in a fender bender or, as there was the big storm building up, was she, you know, in a ditch, as we say out here, in a ditch out here, because the wind didn't. If you have to stop fast, you end up in a ditch from too much rain. It's just a mess. I'm telling you, the ditches are a real thing to end up here in Minnesota. So after those basic things were ruled out, then her friend was actually the one who did call in a welfare check. So her friend did, and then once that was done, I believe that the family, they all came together and said right away, this isn't right, and knew that night that something was very wrong. And then where I was explaining before that the next day was that big blizzard and her vehicle was not missing. He had her vehicle and her ID and keys and phone were all at her townhouse. So none of those things. It's not like, oh, she and her ID and everything and the vehicle are missing. So you would think, okay, was there a crash, due to the storm, and you need to go and look and retrace that road. It wasn't like that. Very very soon, it became pretty obvious as to what happened, but nobody wanted that to be the confirmation of the outcome. I'm sorry. I'm still shaken up because it's just she just seems like just the girl next door, if you will. And so this Fox News article goes on to say that human remains were covered and concealed along a remote Minnesota highway were identified as missing mom Madeline Kingsbury's, Winona Police Chief Tom Williams said Thursday. As the chief announced the news 69 days after Maddie went missing, gut-wrenching sobs of devastated and grieving family members filled a press conference. And that's true. That was our news tonight, and it really is so sad. She was so loved. Now, yesterday, early on, is when I had heard about a benefit that was going to go on this weekend in Winona for to create a fund for the children. Now, this is before her remains were found. that benefit is going to continue to go on as scheduled, and obviously the monies will be going towards her funeral expenses. If I find a link to that, like I've said, I will of course verify that that is the link with the family and the investigator who is covering the case, because I want to make sure that there are not people being opportunistic in here. As I've stated, there was so much in admiration of all of the people who donated their services and just really came together as a community, as we do here in Minnesota. We were really good about looking out for each other, and when somebody needs help, people come running. They really do, and they don't want anything in return. They want to know that everybody's safe, and you know that's kind of how the priority out here is really making sure people stay safe. And it goes on to say that police say they received more than 450 tips from the public and scoured through an area previously searched on Highway 43 near the Iowa state line when they found Maddie's remains. And that's interesting to me because they were really focused on certain areas, and they put out a couple areas that they wanted people to search, and one was a cemetery, and I think one was an area with a kind of like a, not like an entire cave, but like a crystal cave area. And they wanted people, if they were going to be down in the area or anything like that, to pay special attention, then call in. So it's interesting to me that an area that was previously searched was indeed where she was found. And it goes on to say Adam Fravel, Kingsbury's 29-year-old ex and the father of her two young children, was arrested in her death and held on suspicion of second-degree murder. And her family says that the right person is in custody. And as they were saying on the news, that they're glad that he's just not out there, that he's not anywhere other than where he needs to be right now. And they hope that he is cooperative and that justice is served in honor of Maddie. Now, it says here that prosecutors at the Thursday press conference, prosecutor said at a Thursday's press conference, a final decision on charges against Fravel hasn't been made. But Fox News Digital previously reported a special prosecutor was hired as a consultant in the case. Now, the special prosecutor was put on a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and I think that it may have been just because the area is so rural that they needed somebody with a little bit more experience in the complexity, as the children, it seemed, were in foster care to begin with, and then they were released to Maddie's family. I don't know if that's where they needed the special prosecutor, or if it was just that they were not as comfortable as they could be with bringing the charges. Now, it's interesting that they're going for second degree. It makes you wonder if he said something or where that's coming for, and they can always strengthen that charge. They can increase that charge. So it may be that they just kind of put this blanket one across to get him held, and then as they interview him and see which way he wants to plead, how they're going to go to trial, if they are going to increase those charges or not. It's the way that I would infer that they would handle the situation. Now, this is a picture from a few weeks ago at the area where they would meet together. And Maddie's sister, Megan Kingsbury, told Fox News Digital in a previous interview that Fravel and his family cut off all communication with her and her family during the months-long search, which Williams said was the biggest of his career. So that's again speaking to the fact that this rural area had never had a search like this or a situation like this. Now, and it says here, the months-long search was 69 days. So March 31st to June 7. So, yes, months, but it's misleading and it was 2 months, whereas months sounds like more. And they have a clip here where it's Madeline sings to the baby in 2021 video as military brother returns from overseas to join the search. And these links are here. You can check them out if you would like. I don't think that I can play them without getting a copyright strike. So I like to just kind of show you guys where things are if you would like to know. And certainly feel free to ask any questions in the chat and I will answer them as I can. Like I say, I know there's some things out there, and whether or not I can speak to them or not kind of it determines the kind of hour by hour and what the investigators are saying. And it says here that Megan said the family knew Adam had something to do with Maddie's disappearance right from the start in a TikTok video after the press conference. But Maddie's cause of death and other details will remain under wraps as prosecutors prepare to file charges. Now, our weather was very, very cold until a few weeks ago. Then it changed and it was very hot. So one can hope that there is still enough evidence to determine the cause and manner of death. And that's why it's important, even if the unthinkable is thought to be the case, it's important that the loved ones are located so that justice can be conducted. And like as in the case of Haley Anthony, because of the extreme weather and the conditions in which her body was put there, there was no way to determine exactly how Haley had been unalived. That is probably a big factor in why Casey Anthony remains a free woman. She was not found innocent. She was just not found guilty. And in our system, we believe that in order for somebody to lose their freedom, they need to be proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And they could not come to that outcome with the Anthony case, like I said, because most likely there was not really much that was not completely skeletalized in Kaylee. It was always hard not to mix up those names. And Megan thanked the extraordinary efforts of law enforcement, first responders, and volunteers during her daily check-in on TikTok. And she said, "We're glad he's in custody. He's not walking around a free man anymore." That's exactly what she said. Then it says, Madeline Kingsbury court docs, Minnesota police contradict claims from the father of missing woman's kids. And it says, Fravel was said to be the last person to see Maddie alive when they dropped their children off at daycare on the morning of March 31st. He claimed he did not have anything to do with Maddie's disappearance. In a prepared statement he released through his lawyer nearly 2 weeks after she went missing. That was a big factor because there was so much that was confusing, and her story did not gain much traction because there was so much silence in the beginning. And even now, there are the handful of people who are following the story, but it did not really get the national attention that some cases do. And I think it was because of that initial kind of confusion in the timeline and the silence surrounding it. And here's just more videos of her in there. And this is more of the story that we kind covered last night. We, as in you and I. So these are all here when you do a basic Google or a Bing search, as is in the case here. I will put that information about the, well, let's see if we can find it right here. Let's see if we can do, it's in the dark, so I can't see what I'm typing. Let's see if it shows for the benefit. Okay, there we are. So it says Kingsbury family and friends are also raising money for blue ribbons and blue and light bulbs in honor of her birthday on June 1. A benefit for Kingsbury is scheduled for June 10 at Witoka Tavern in Winona. Witoka. Anyone can attend and donate. So that's the fundraiser that was planned prior to her being located and is still reported to be in place to still go on. I don't know if the person who, I don't know if the tip that led to her discovery was made by a private citizen or the investigators. There's not been anything said about the $50,000 reward, if it was definitely from a tip from the outside or not. And here we go. We'll go down here. So the benefit, let's go over here and see if we can find more about it. I didn't recognize her in this picture. I thought that possibly this was somebody who was planning the benefit, but this is her with shorter hair. Yes? Or no? No, it's her friend. Because it says live at Cook Park. This lady looks just like her. What does she say here? Or is this a picture? Let me see here.
This digital age is unbelievable, but not everyone's living in it. Home internet shouldn't be a luxury. Everyone should have it. And now, more people can.
Kingsbury has been missing since Friday, March 31st. She has two children who are currently under the care of Madeline's parents. Now family and friends are coming together to raise funds for her children.
So happening this Saturday, everyone is invited to attend the Madeline Kingsbury benefit at Witoka Tavern and Reception Hall, that is, in Winona. All proceeds of the event will go to the care and tending to the needs of Madeline's children. There will be a silent auction and raffle items along with activities, food vendors, music, and much more.
Everyone has been really fantastic. The support extends far from Winona. People way up in the Iron Range, across the country. I've had people send me really nice messages from across the world.
And more information on how you can support Madeline's children that can be found on our website, kttc.com.
There we go. So definitely make sure that if you would like to make a donation, definitely make sure that they're coming from verified sources, as there have been other people who are trying to capitalize on, and that happens with any GoFundMe. People try to scam, if you will. So at Witoka Tavern and Reception Hall in Winona. Witoka Tavern, Witoka. And let's see. They have an event page. It says if you're planning on going to Madeline's benefit, please go to the event page and click on going so we have a better estimate of how many people will be attending. We need to know this for food, beverage, and a seating estimate. Please and thank you. And there we go. And it is supposed to be Saturday at 3 o'clock. It looks like it'll begin, so probably go until they're done, I guess. Now, was this Cook Park?
Disfruta de cientos de series y películas premium originales de ViX. Descarga la aplicación ya.
Good afternoon, I'm Jess Abrahamson. First today at noon, Rochester police are investigating a death. We're told a person's body was discovered in a city park this morning. The discovery was made by a parks employee in Cook Park, and Megan Zempel is joining us live from there with more on what happened. Good afternoon, Megan.
Okay, this is not related.
Hi, Jess.
That is not related as okay, because it says Rochester man. I thought that this one might have been talking about that because they said that off the highway, and I had not seen if there was a park or anything listed, but because this was put in the stack of headlines there, I thought maybe this was that, but that is sadly another missing person who's now located. And can I donate? Okay, let's see if we go here. There we go. So it's that benefit donate. If I find a link, I will definitely put it. There we go. There we go. Okay, so it says right here, you can donate to the Benefit Fund of Madeline Kingsbury by making a check out to the Benefit Fund of Madeline Kingsbury and dropping it off at the Watoka Tavern or at Merchants Bank's locations. You can also donate online at GoFundMe, and it's got, so gofund.me/A2F8EA2D. I will hyperlink that in. I'll try to put it in. Well, I'll put it on my community post, but then also I'll put it in there. I know that merchants banks are not everywhere. They're kind of more of a Midwestern thing. So that's that. That's really all that has been said. Not really much more than we knew yesterday. Closer to finding justice, though. So thank you for listening, and I will talk to you all soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.